It's a time of rebuilding. From the pandemic and ongoing violence, KSEE 24 returns to Armenia, bringing you stories of hope and perseverance. This is The Valley's Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Hello and welcome to The Valley's Armenia 2022. I'm Stephanie Barugian. KSEE 24 was invited to travel along with the Fresno medical mission of doctors and specialists in the country of Armenia. It was the mission's 7th trip and our 4th time traveling with them and documenting their work. It comes at a time when Armenia is embroiled in violence with neighboring Azerbaijan, and it happened just days after a visit by a congressional delegation led by Nancy Pelosi, a show of support from the U.S. It's a tiny country situated with Azerbaijan to the east, Turkey to the west, and Georgia and Iran to the north and south. Much of its 3 million people struggle in poverty with affordable medical care in short supply. But in late September, early October, a team of Fresno doctors went to Armenia to help.
It is a blessing, to be honest with you.
Fresno's honorary consul for the Republic of Armenia led the team of 30 medical professionals providing free care to people in need. Surgeons, dentists, pediatricians, and physiotherapists among them.
It's an absolute gratifying experience, and it's a showcasing our community.
Donations from the Central Valley, including a large gift from community health systems, helped fund the trip. They served Armenia's rural communities and treated those injured in the ongoing war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Fresno City Council member Mike Karbasi joined the team, meeting with representatives with the University of Yerevan in Armenia's capital city to forge a relationship so Armenian medical students can come to the valley to train.
It's not just taking care of people. Education, expansion of relationship, and bringing it on an international level.
And this year's mission truly went international as a young woman from Africa came to Armenia for complicated bladder reconstruction surgery. Dr. Paul Magurian, a pediatric urologist from Seattle Children's Hospital, led the surgery, changing the life of this young woman and the other Armenian children he treated.
I think to me it's more of a humbling experience than anything else.
And other mission doctors serve the people of Armenia as well, leaving the lasting impression that the Central Valley cares, is generous, and is there to help. Fresno's honorary consul to Armenia, Berish Apkarian, the mission leader, joining me now. Welcome home. I know you've been home for a while. You've had a lot of time to think about the mission, what your goals were, and what you would hope to accomplish. What do you think about those ideas now?
Mission accomplished.
Yes.
For sure. This year, we continued our efforts to serve the wounded soldiers and the civilians, especially after September 13-14 aggression by Azerbaijan towards sovereign Armenia. Our contribution was very, very important, especially right after the aggression. A week after we left, with a lot of concern as far as the safety of everyone.
Right.
But I tell you, every member of the medical mission, they were gung-ho to go, regardless of the threats, regardless of the risks.
And there never was a moment where anyone's life was in danger on the mission team.
Never, because their prayers, our prayers were heard, and also our determination was very strong.
What made this mission unique this year?
The expansion of the international arm of the medical mission. So last year, as you may know, we brought the international piece into the equation, but this year we were able to put it into reality.
Yes.
So we brought a patient from Algeria who needed bladder exstrophy. She didn't have a bladder.
Well, and also one of the doctors was from another country.
That's correct. And so we had an ophthalmologist, a very famous ophthalmologist from Israel, and as well as the patient itself from Algeria. And we changed her life dramatically, day and night.
We're going to find out more about that in this show. The need in Armenia, how great?
It's enormous. Our efforts should continue for a long time because the need is great. The country really needs our support, and we should shore up. That's the spirit of the United States. That's what we are in terms of the Valley. And I'll take this moment to thank our Valley, our community.
Yes.
And especially my employer, community health system. We have done incredible job over the past 7 years to contribute and also to allow me to go. And
Yes.
that's a great privilege.
And we'll find out more about what the future goals are a little bit later in the show. Berge, thank you. We'll talk to you in just a little bit.
Thank you.
And still to come on the Valleys Armenia, Day one, mission doctors hit the ground running to begin their humanitarian work, while Fresno City Council member Mike Carbasi works to build a stronger bridge between the Valley and Armenia.
Mr. Councilman. Yes, sir. Okay, we do this on a ceremonial level. By the power vested in me by me, I hereby invite you, induct you in the medical mission team.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Now you're a member of the team. All right, welcome aboard.
This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Flying to Armenia is no easy task. It involves about 20 hours in the air with multiple connections to meet. The medical mission from Fresno got off to a rocky start for part of the group, but it was smooth sailing after that. It was a journey that started at the Fresno airport.
Some of them are here, some of them are other parts of the nation, and thank you very much.
One canceled flight and 3 days of travel later, the Fresno medical mission team led by Honorary Consul Berj Abkarian arrived in Armenia.
Rough beginning, smooth landing, and I think our days is going to continue as smooth as tonight.
Day one in Armenia. We're in the capital city of Yerevan, staying at the Holiday Inn near Republic Square. The team of 30 doctors and physiotherapists immediately scattered to serve Armenia's rural and underserved populations. In Armavir, at the Infants of Jesus Healthcare Center, chiropractor Vartan Jabrayan offered his help managing pain.
For us, for Armenians, it's our duty to serve our homeland country.
In the village of Dalarik, which honors its war dead at a village park, physiotherapist Christina Koroyan of Fresno treated 35-year-old Edgar Osmanian, who fought and was injured in Armenia's 44-day war with Azerbaijan, and again only recently. Does he have a message that he would like us to take back?
My wish is that we keep our ties together, Americans and Armenians. He would want nothing more.
Fresno City Council member Mike Carbasi joining the mission, observing the humanitarian work underway.
Truly, I want to thank you.
Well, it's a wonderful country, but it's a bit shell-shocked from the conflict with Azerbaijan.
And the work will continue, with Carbasi forging a relationship between Fresno and Yerevan State University as the doctors continue touching lives in any way they can.
Just looking at her right now, it doesn't seem like she has ADHD.
She doesn't.
He
But
doesn't.
she says this is not.
Councilmember Carbasi's visit to Armenia also included a stop in the city of Etchmiadzin, about 11 miles outside of the capital of Yerevan. It's a sister city to the city of Fresno and is the location of the mother church of the Armenian Apostolic Church, with its original cathedral built in 301 AD. Carbasi met with the mayor of Etchmiadzin, Diana Gasparian, Armenia's first female mayor, and she spoke candidly about what she'd like to see from the Sister City program.
Honestly, not the partnership has not been too that practical between Etchmiadzin and Fresno, but we hope that this can be a start for first of all us to figure out problems that to us might seem very not feminine things, more male things. That's why it's an achievement that our people trusted a young woman to solve all that difficult and everyday problems.
Karbasi also joined Mayor Gasparian for a tour of the museum at the cathedral, which contains some amazing artifacts, like a fragment of petrified wood said to be from Noah's Ark, relics from the apostles, and the holy spear used to pierce the side of Jesus Christ as he hung on the cross during his crucifixion. And Councilmember Mike Karbasi joining me now. Obviously, you've been back from Armenia for several weeks now.
Yes.
Was it a trip to remember for you?
It was life-changing for me. I was born and raised in Northwest Fresno. Historically, we have a lot of ethnic groups that are a part of our history, but Armenians are probably the ones that stand out the most. And to be able to learn more about their history, where they come from, and learn that connection is still very much alive here in Fresno.
Yeah, so that made it important for you to go there. You absolutely had a plan in place when you got there. You had meetings lined up. What were you able to achieve through those meetings with the university, also, as we saw, with the mayor of Etchmiadzin?
Right. Well, thanks to Consul Abkarian, we were able to not only meet with some of the folks there, but also our U.S. ambassador, Lynn Tracy. And one thing we were able to do with Mayor Diana Gasparian from Etchmiadzin, by the way, you know, she is the only woman to be the first ever mayor of a city in Armenia.
That's right.
Phenomenal.
Yes, that's right.
It's that we have so many things in our community that we take for granted, but they can use them there. And so many skills, so many little pieces of technology. So our goal is to help provide them with the resources they need, because their people are just as human as we are.
Right. What are you planning then for the follow-up? I know there was talk about possibly doing exchanges with professors from the university. Right. I know in Etchmiadzin they want help with just even some infrastructure and just planning in the city, maybe to lure in more tourists. What can you do, or what can our city and community do to help fulfill some of those goals that you have?
Well, we do want to bring the mayor and her delegation here. What we talked about is they're in great need of technology when it comes to waste management.
Right.
Again, something we take for granted. Their budget for their entire city is about $4 million, and that's the budget for one council member. I'm only kidding, it's not that much. But it just goes to show that if we send our expertise there, it will go such a long way in helping improve the quality of life. And now, where Armenia is located geopolitically, let's understand what this has on an international level. You've got the Chinese, you've got the Russians there, but America is the only country with a presence that's trying to provide aid directly to Armenians, and Fresno can be a part of that.
So what is your goal then?
My goal is to make sure we actually come up with concrete ways we can check off boxes saying this is what we've done to help them improve the quality of life for their residents, but also to bring them here to educate our people, not just about cultural exchange, but also about when it comes to agriculture, having that exchange. They produce their own cognac.
They do.
They produce their own wine. Their university produces wine. Well, ours does too. And to be able to have an exchange of professors and knowledge, that's something that's really important.
And that really is kind of a logical connection that we could make.
Well, look at our grape industry.
Yeah.
Who started it in Fresno, in our valley? Come on.
That's true.
Absolutely.
A very strong Armenian connection.
That's right.
Councilmember Mike Karbasi, thank you for joining us.
Thank
We
you.
sure do appreciate it.
Got it.
When we come back, the medical mission included a large group of physiotherapists, some from Fresno, some from other parts of the country, and we're going to take a look at the important role they played next. This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Armenia's 44-day war with Azerbaijan in 2020 over the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh and the recent violence at the border has left thousands dead and many, many more injured. We talked to Armenian soldiers who say they're fighting this battle without the proper protective gear, weapons, and support. Many have been left with traumatic injuries, and properly treating those injuries was a focus of this medical mission, especially the physiotherapists who offered help for their recovery. It may be life as usual in Armenia's capital city of Yerevan, but this is a country at war. The 2020 44-day war between Armenia and Azerbaijan left thousands dead, and violence has erupted once again. We're in the Atagat region on the road to Gyumri, Armenia's second largest city. Mission physiotherapists are working with soldiers there who've been injured in the recent violence. It's a scenic drive with Mount Ararat, Armenia's holy mountain, guiding the way.
Rolling a lot, kind of crawling.
The medical mission from Fresno includes a large team of physiotherapists. They're treating soldiers like 30-year-old Ruben Galstyan from Gyumri. He suffered hand and head injuries fighting for his country 2 years ago.
He's fighting for his family and his country.
Physiotherapist Shannon Froenick calls working with the soldiers humbling.
It's been a very eye-opening experience to just hear more about everything that's been going on over the past few years and recently.
And the mission is seeing more than soldiers at the Gyumri Rehab Center, patients with chronic health conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes that often go untreated.
You feel like you're doing something, but of course it's never enough. I think here there's this concept of treatment and you're done with the treatment. This idea of our chronic disease and permanent medication that you'll take for the rest of your life. It's not a standard knowledge yet.
It's an ongoing project to treat and heal as the people of Armenia carry on with another goal in mind.
I wish peace to both sides, peace to the world.
Also in the city of Gyumri, we met up with another team of physiotherapists working at a small healthcare center. Patients line up to get pain relief, experiencing techniques like cupping to help with an aching back, treatments they may not have ever seen before. Physiotherapist Glenn Watts joined the mission team from Alaska, and he says he was touched by the need in Armenia.
And my first day was in a clinic about an hour outside of Yerevan, worked with soldiers there. And that was very humbling to see these young guys being injured from the war. And yeah, I wish I could help them even more. So I'm hoping that we can get some equipment for them as well in the future.
The therapists brought their tools and gear with them so they could perform the therapy as needed, even teaching therapists in Armenia some of the new techniques so they could continue to help patients after the mission team was gone. Coming up, remembering a tragic but important event in Armenia's history. A visit to the Armenian Genocide Monument overlooking the capital city of Yerevan to honor the lives lost more than 100 years ago.
We'll go down there and get a historical perspective of what happened, and then we go and lay out the flowers and pay our respect. Follow me.
This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Fresno's medical mission to Armenia was busy nearly every day of their 2-week visit, but they did take some time off from their healing work to pay their respects. And remember, the fight for peace is not over yet. A solemn excursion to a place marking a tragic time in Armenia's history.
Part of aggression that the entire civilized world
must stand tall.
This is Tsitser Nakabert, the Armenian Genocide Monument in Yerevan.
This is unacceptable.
Fresno's medical mission team taking time out to honor the 1.5 million lives lost to the 1915 genocide.
And never accept crime against humanity, no matter where it is, no matter who inflicts that wound and that pain.
It's been 107 years since the genocide, but the Armenian people are dealing with violence once again. Local news organizations keeping a close watch on the latest assault by Armenia's neighbor, Azerbaijan. We're at the studios of CivilNet, an online news resource for the people of Armenia and the world. The studio and offices overlook Yerevan's Northern Avenue, as well as the skyline of this beautiful city.
The goal was to have a young team of professionals that will cover news in Armenia, about Armenia and the region.
Maria Yegizarian is assignment editor for CivilNet. Established 11 years ago, it's an independent news resource with crews embedded in the war zone.
And our journalist and cameraman called me and said, you know, I'm hearing some sounds, what's happening, can you check the news? And just right after that, we saw the official announcement that there are tensions on the border.
What is it like trying to cover the violence that's currently happening? How difficult is it?
It's emotional, yes, and also hard, but very responsible also to cover it and to tell the world what's happening here in Armenia.
But the stories are even more personal to some. Former Fresno resident Zar Demirgadichian is visiting Armenia in part to see family living near the violence.
They are exceptionally apprehensive about what's going to happen in their lives and for the losses that are occurring. Each village that I've seen as I've gone by, each of the cemeteries, they have special displays for those who have passed away, who have died.
Right.
As war heroes, actually.
The concern and national pride is apparent everywhere. A nation longing for peace that can't seem to avoid the brutality of war. And still to come, the medical mission team was made up of about 30 people. Many were newcomers making their first trip to Armenia, and we'll get their first impressions when we come back.
I was in a van going to 2 to 3 different villages, very small clinics, and it was just really incredible to see how the people there live. They have extremely limited access to health care, so they were very grateful for a doctor in America to come and see them.
This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. An eye-opening experience on so many levels. For mission first-timers, serving people in need in Armenia was rewarding, but perhaps also a bit frustrating. Medical equipment that is standard of care in the U.S. or in other countries was not available in Armenia, and that made diagnosis and treatment difficult.
3 times. All right. So by the power vested in me.
The official jacket presentation ceremony. Fresno's honorary consul to Armenia, Berj Afkarian, welcoming ophthalmologist Dr. Radgond Amer to the medical mission team.
All right. How is it?
Unfortunately, we cannot dilate the pupils to check the inside of the eye because we don't have the instruments.
Dr. Amer traveling from Jerusalem to serve the medically underserved in Armenia.
If people don't receive the treatment at the proper time, there may be irreversible damage.
Dr. Amer working on this day in Amavir with equipment obsolete by her standards.
But basically, I was a bit surprised to see, only very primitive instruments, and basically I have no possibility of doing a full exam for the patient.
And then when he was born, he was found to have pneumonia? Is that what it is?
Pediatric neurologist Dr. Raymond David from Valley Children's Hospital, another mission first-timer.
All right.
What is your reaction to seeing these types of cases?
It makes me sad, but also it will be expected in a place where you don't have specialists.
Yeah.
So even in the States, child neurology, there's not a lot of child neurologists, and there's some places there with no child neurologists.
Yeah. He saw more than 20 patients on this day, answering questions, making assessments.
A child who's having seizures when he was 2 years old, parents are coming in saying the child is still having seizures. And then I asked them, okay, when was the last time you adjusted his medication for his seizures? Oh, we did not.
Mission first-timer physiotherapist Andrew Lillis of Fresno, touched by this country more than he expected.
I really don't feel that I'm worthy. The work that I've done has not compared to what I've received from the experience that I've had here.
His work non-stop, treating soldiers injured in the war with Azerbaijan and other residents in pain.
You know, the Armenian people have had centuries where, you know, there are suffering people.
The first-timers joined a team of mission veterans, and next year there's no doubt that many, if not all, will return as veterans themselves.
And hopefully, you know, I can join you also on the next year.
Physiotherapist Dr. Christina Koroyan joins me now. Christina, you're not a newcomer to the mission, but you really are responsible for bringing in a number of newcomers, and this year you had a large group. Can you break it down? Who joined you in terms of being a therapist?
Sure. This year we were fortunate. We had 9 physical therapists, 2 wonderful occupational therapists, and 1 speech therapist that returned again this year.
All right. So again, some repeat doctors. Now, you had, I know there was a physiotherapist who came from Alaska. There were a couple from the East Coast. What do they think when they're approached with the concept of going to Armenia? Is it a hard sell? Is it an easy sell? What is their reaction when they hear about this as a possible trip?
I think it was such an easy sell. It's somewhere they've never even heard about, but I go about describing Armenia and how things went previous years, and they are just so excited to join the mission and help people that are in dire need.
What are you and what have you and the other physiotherapists been able to do for the wounded soldiers? I know that has been a focus. It was a focus last year. It was a focus this year. What have you been able to accomplish with the treatment you've given them?
Yeah, the soldiers are so grateful and so appreciative of what we've been able to do. Many of them came back to see us this year from last year that we had met them, and we implement different modalities such as dry needling, spinal and extremity manipulation, mobilization, of course, exercise prescription.
Right. Are these treatments that they're not able to receive from the doctors there in Armenia or the therapists?
Yeah, we went to many of the rural regions in Armenia where these treatments or modalities are not readily available to them.
So what do they think when you're sticking? I know I saw some of it, the cupping, you know, some of these treatments that are very common here in this country. What is their reaction when you say, I'm going to do these treatments on you?
You know, it's so different for them, but after we finish the treatment, they feel so much better immediately that they would like to return, you know, in a few days to get a repeat.
And I know part of what you do is educating the therapists there.
This year was great because many of our therapists were able to transfer their knowledge onto the rehab specialists in Armenia, and able to teach them what they know so they can continue those treatments for the patients.
Because that is so important when it comes to that type of treatment.
Right.
Planning to bring more physiotherapists next year, or what are your goals?
I hope I can recruit more physical therapists and, of course, strengthen our bonds, our relationships with the physicians and the rehab specialists in Armenia, and, of course, the people in Armenia, too.
Dr. Christina Koroyan, thank you so much.
Thank
we appreciate it. And still to come, from newcomers to veterans, the doctors who've been committed to the mission since day one.
This is something that I want to be part of my career and make a commitment to be able to come back and continue providing care, because I honestly didn't expect the situation to be as bad as it is here, especially outside of the cities and in the villages. You know, they really do need help.
This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Nearly half of Armenia's population of 3 million living in poverty. The need for help is great. That need has inspired the Fresno Medical Mission to Armenia to return year after year for 7 years now. Some of the doctors on the team have made every trip, and the reason for that, they say, is personal.
We have a good anesthesia machine there. In addition to the table, we have the laparoscopic tower. We'll start the surgery.
A full circle moment for Fresno surgeon Dr. Von Bogosian.
This is the area that was renovated. The hospital that we're working in, they're helping us. They're supporting the patients that come here to do everything for free.
It was just 3 years ago. He was there for the ribbon cutting for this same operating room. Originally like this.
It's overwhelming that the money went to the right place.
But now renovated with donations from 2 Fresno benefactors.
This is for holding instruments to the wall.
Dr. Bogosian has been serving on the Fresno Medical Mission to Armenia since day one, and his legacy may continue as his son, a senior at Clovis North High School, plans to follow in his footsteps.
Knowing what the right thing to do at the right time is things that I will learn in time, and I do want to follow in my father's footsteps.
This dedication that I have, it's 2 parts because my heritage is Armenian and I want to serve the Armenian nation. In addition to that, it's humanitarian.
A sentiment echoed by mission veteran, Fresno internist Dr. Garo Kachigian.
Humanitarian aspect of this mission is that we want to come and be here and talk and see our, brothers and sisters and be with them in their difficult times.
Dr. Kachigian has played a role in planning the mission for 7 years. He says he gives his time to help patients struggling with chronic conditions like untreated heart disease and diabetes. But he also does it for the love of his homeland, now dealing with a difficult war.
I'm not a soldier. My weapon is my stethoscope, and that's how I come and fight. I want to be here and show that solidarity with them.
2 doctors committed to Armenia with a poverty rate at nearly 45%, and the people who need help but have so little. Internal medicine specialist Dr. Marta Nalbandian is a mission veteran. Dr. Nalbandian, you've gone several times, and this is really this is something really personal for you. I know, if you can explain that connection.
Absolutely. I was born in Armenia. I've actually immigrated to the United States when I was 9, back in the 90s, and so it was very personal, and I have a deep connections back to Armenia, but I also understand what it means to be a patient there, and also what the type of healthcare that's available. And so I wanted to absolutely put my stamp in. I wanted to make sure that I go back and give back to the community that I was so familiar with and was so familial almost.
Yes, I totally understand that. Well, in a previous interview that we've already seen, you mentioned that people with chronic health conditions don't necessarily understand that certain medications may be something they have to take for life. Is it a challenge to get that message across, or why is there that lack of understanding about these types of medicines and the need for them to live?
Well, when you understand the cultural differences, we have a lot of reactive medicine in Armenia rather than proactive medicine. That was one of the most important things that we wanted to take back to ensure we instilled both locally at the patient population level, but also at the physician level.
Are those medicines available there?
It is available for some. Unfortunately, we have to have situational humility. Not everybody can afford these medications.
I see.
And so they have to make the choice whether they're going to buy their daily food versus buy these chronic medications that they have to be on lifelong.
Because, we are fortunate in our country that healthcare is, for the most part, available, and if someone has a need for medicine, they can get it. But that isn't the case.
Absolutely.
In Armenia.
That is exactly right. We are so blessed, and it's so humbling when you come back and you realize how blessed we are to truly be have the access to the healthcare that we do, and even as a physician to have the healthcare to provide to your patients. And so it's really sobering to really understand that reality for these populations there. And so we're trying to take it back. We're trying to highlight that we understand the social situation that they're in, but because these individuals tend to be the head of the household and most of the financial responsibilities are on their shoulders, it's so incredibly important to communicate that while it may seem like it's expensive or it's not accessible or it's not financially feasible, it is actually very important to invest in yourself so you can continue to care for your family.
Exactly. The lifestyle there, I think this is something that has struck me, isn't always the healthiest. People, there are a lot of smokers. Sometimes even, I've seen it even in the hospitals.
Absolutely. This is one arena that we have a lot of work to do. Absolutely. It is a cultural thing. I don't think it has been highlighted as a negative light at this point.
Yeah.
And this
do you try to educate in the time that you're there?
Absolutely. This has been actually probably one of the biggest things that we've tried to instill, both with the younger medical students who are learning about medicine and the type of care they need to take forward in the future, but also the patients.
Yeah.
It's very different for them to hear a physician lecture you on smoking cessation when you have physicians they themselves are smoking.
That are doing that. Well, you got to, in those 2 weeks, you got to get all those messages out.
Absolutely.
Dr. Marta Nalbandian, thank you so much for joining us. And when we come back, a truly international connection to this medical mission. A young woman flies to Armenia from Algeria for surgery that will change her life.
Because we're teaching as much as we are doing. Both my grandparents were genocide survivors, and so I have no family here, but coming here, you know, it feels like home.
This is The Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. There was a very exciting and life-changing event that happened during this medical mission to Armenia. A young woman from Algeria flew in for surgery that she had waited for and hoped for her entire life. Khadija Boulablis came to Armenia from her home in Algeria to change her life. A random search on Google brought her here.
You know, it's kind of sad for me to live like this for 25 years, and I didn't know there was, you know, a surgery to begin with until last year. I just Googled bladder extrophy and I found the group.
Just by doing a Google search.
Yeah, exactly. It's so silly. I mean, I should have done this years ago, and I was like, why didn't I even think of it? It never occurred to me.
Born 25 years ago with a rare condition, her bladder was outside her body. She lived in seclusion, desperate for a normal life.
I went to a lot of doctors, and each of them, they say that they cannot help me, or they don't know what kind of surgery that would be, or they offer something that doesn't even exist. But with this surgery, I think it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be more at ease with going out, spending the whole day out and everything, without, you know, the anxiety of being found out.
The computer search connected Khadija to a support group for people with her condition, which connected her to pediatric urologist Dr. Paul Magurian of Seattle Children's Hospital, an expert in this type of repair.
2 hours for the operation, 1.5 to 2 hours.
A former Fresno resident who's also a member of Fresno's medical mission to Armenia.
It's a complicated surgery, so we help them when we come here once a year.
I had 3 surgeries.
Hopefully not. I think they only need just one operation.
First one was a closure surgery, but it failed.
So we're redoing this.
3 years after, I had another one, and 2 years after, I had the third one.
This is pretty much the highlight of my career. I look forward to coming here every year.
Repairs like this are lengthy and complicated. Dr. Magurian was joined by 2 colleagues to change Khadija's life and the lives of other Armenian children born with similar conditions.
Well, that's why we come here, and that's why we come back, because we believe in teaching the surgeons here.
This is a typical scene at so many hospitals and clinics throughout Armenia. Patients lining up to have the opportunity to meet with mission doctors. But it's not just the patients waiting to see them. Hospital staff also listening in for an opportunity to learn.
Now what we need to do is we're going to raise the baby up. But indeed, this is not just us coming in and doing surgeries for them. It's for us to partner with them in taking care of their patients.
Repairs typically done in the U.S. at 3 months of age, delayed for years for these children until adulthood for Khadija.
I feel like I'm really comfortable. Now I can get on with my life. I can travel to places without having to worry. And I no longer have to carry extra things just in case.
A young woman's life to begin again, thanks to a gift from Fresno to Algeria, and finally fulfilled in Armenia.
Khadija's surgery went well. She spent several weeks recovering in Armenia and is set to go home very soon. When we come back, a look at what's ahead for this next medical mission. Also, an amazing and generous gift from Fresno to Armenia that's impacting dozens of lives.
Anxiety free. Yeah. There's just freedom. We have freedom for everything. There's no boundaries anymore.
This is the Valleys Armenia. The mission returns, presented by Fashion Furniture and Ventura TV. Fresno's honorary consul to Armenia, Berj Abkarian, rejoins me with a look ahead. Berj, this was such a productive mission. It went international, so many elements to it. How do you top it next year?
There are always elements of surprise.
I know you're always thinking.
Absolutely. Before the mission even ends, I'm always looking ahead. We have a very unique opportunity to bring symposium into next medical mission. I already spoken with the president of the medical school and to the provost as well, and we have identified great opportunity for us side by side, alongside the medical mission, to conduct 3 to 4 days of symposium.
Which makes sense because, as we heard, education is needed there.
Absolutely, and bring some experts from United States and from the Central Valley itself, had important topics that will bring the younger generation, the residents, along with the practicing physicians into state-of-the-art information, and for them practice and bring better care to the population.
The one highlight for you this year, I have a hunch I know what you're going to say.
Well, changing the life of a young lady all the way from Algeria, a lady who has no connection with Armenia or Armenians, for the Central Valley to take that responsibility over their shoulder and change her life 100%. It's the most gratifying element of what we have done and what we will continue to do.
And what can the community do to help support these missions in the future?
Community, over the past 7 medical missions to Armenia, they have been an incredible supporter, morally, financially, in every way possible. I can't be more thankful to them.
Okay, your organization, we have just a few seconds left. Let's give it a plug.
Advance Armenia Foundation is not-for-profit charitable organization, 2753 Quincy Avenue. So you will get your tax-deductible donation. And so if you can, please help, because every dollar, every cent goes 100% to the mission itself.
Berj Abkarian, thank you so much. Thank you for hosting us on this incredible trip. It's always such a great honor to join you.
My pleasure, anytime.
Before I say goodbye, I want to update a story I first told you about 2 years ago. It involves a Fresno woman named Carnegie Clara Margosian, who at 102 donated $1 million to help the people in Armenia. Clara was very troubled about the war in her homeland and made the very generous gift. The nonprofit organization called the Armenia Fund used Clara's gift to build apartments in the city of Gyumri. And here are some pictures of those apartments, 2 buildings completed, each providing 18 units to house families. Clara is now 104 years old, still living in Fresno, and through these pictures is able to witness the result of her amazing, life-changing gift. Such a great way to end our show. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great evening.